The box slid across the tablecloth and stopped against a water glass. My son's hand stayed open, hovering over the empty space. 40 guests, string lights, a silver banner that read *30 years*, and my mother, without blinking, without lowering her voice, said it clear enough for the caterers to pause. You were always the afterthought, Clara. I don't mean it cruelly, I mean it factually. My father didn't correct her. He just set his glass down and said, I take it and leave. I didn't cry, I didn't argue. I just watched the craft paper box catch on a butter knife, my son's hand-drawn card fluttering face down to the stone patio. Inside was a manila envelope. Inside that envelope was the only thing standing between their house and a courthouse auction in 38 days. And they had just pushed it away like trash. I picked up my son. He pressed his face into my shoulder and didn't make a sound. I turned, walked past the shrimp trays and the silver cake stand and the relatives who had watched me grow up and never once asked if I was okay. The gravel crunched under my shoes. I buckled him in, started the car, and drove. I didn't look back. 5 days later, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. 14 calls from my mother, 11 from my father, 3 from my brother, 2 from my aunt. I let them all go to voicemail. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. I finally understood the difference between love and leverage, and I was done paying for a seat at a table that was never set for me. But let me take you back to the morning I decided to wrap a debt in brown paper. I stood in my kitchen at 6:04 a.m., 3 weeks before the anniversary dinner, with a roll of craft paper, a rubber stamp, and a manila folder that looked thinner than it felt. My son Julian sat at the counter with a length of jute string between his teeth, trying to twist it into a loop. He was 8. He believed tension could be negotiated into symmetry. The loop came out lopsided. He grinned like he'd engineered a bridge. It's perfect. I told him. He'd folded a card the night before. A crooked house with a lopsided chimney. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad, in block letters that leaned hard to the right. He tucked it under the twine himself. I caught my reflection in the microwave. Cardigan, hair pinned back, a risk compliance manager who reviewed 7-figure contracts without blinking. And yet my hands were damp. Some part of me, the part I still hadn't retired, believed this would finally balance the ledger. 30 years of marriage. Their son and grandson at the table. A gift that could genuinely anchor them, though they didn't know they were already sinking. I pressed the lid. Julian smoothed the twine with his thumb. Mom, do you think they'll smile? I smiled at him. Maybe, baby. The paperwork wasn't the hard part. The hard part was still wanting to be chosen. Growing up in the Hayes house, the hierarchy was absolute. Daniel came first. I came second if there was room. My brother was 2 years older, and from day one, my parents treated him like a blueprint they'd finally gotten right. Trophies on the mantle, honor roll certificates on the fridge, birthday parties with coordinated themes. Then there was me. I was the surprise my mother mentioned with a polite smile. She told me once, folding sheets like she was reading a weather report, You were never the plan, Clara. I don't say it to wound you, I say it because it's true. I was 9. I remember the wicker laundry basket she was holding. She never locked me out. She never raised her voice. She just had this quiet, steady way of making me feel like I was borrowing space that had already been allocated. Daniel got the tournaments. I got a participation ribbon and a hug that lasted half a second. My father, Arthur, loved me the way men of his generation loved their backup plans. Politely, consistently, without ever stepping into the room when I needed a witness. By the time I left for college on a work-study grant and 2 campus jobs, I'd already learned the house rule. Daniel was the exhibit. I was the archive. I didn't resent them for it. I just grew tired. At 23, I had Julian. His father lasted long enough to hear the word pregnant and then discovered a sudden passion for relocating to the Pacific Northwest. My parents' reaction was a joint voicemail. Another detour. My mother said. We can't cover childcare. My father added. I knew perfectly. I worked days filing invoices and tracking shipments. Nights I studied for my risk certification. Julian slept in a crib beside my flashcards. Some months I ate instant oats so he could have the fortified formula the pediatrician recommended. 2 years, 1 failed exam, 1 pass. By 27, I was a certified risk compliance manager. By 29, I was overseeing vendor portfolios worth more than my parents' combined retirement accounts. I learned to read a liability clause better than I could read my own mother's silence. But here's the thing about building yourself from zero. You get good at carrying load. Too good. I was the coworker who stayed late. The friend who answered at midnight. The daughter who still mailed anniversary cards to a woman who filed them in a drawer and never said thank you. Overfunctioning was my default. If there was a fire, I grabbed the hose, even when the people inside had handed me the matches. The invitation arrived in April. Cream card stock, silver embossed. Arthur and Alina Hayes celebrate 30 years of partnership, family, and grace. I stared at it for 2 days. Julian found it on the counter and lit up. We're going to Grandma and Grandpa's big party. He said it the way kids talk about theme parks. Capital letters, exclamation points, wide open belief that this time would be different. Julian wanted grandparents. He wanted the cookies and the lap and the bedtime stories. He didn't know the math. He just knew he was missing something. I almost threw the invitation away. But I'd just come into possession of something that could change everything between us. A gift so specific, so necessary to their survival, that even my mother would have to look up. I couldn't tell Julian what it was. I couldn't explain the foreclosure filings or the defaulted home equity line or the fact that their house was 60 days from being auctioned. He was 8. He knew the box had a twine bow, a card he drew, and something important inside. We're going. I told him. And we're bringing the most important present they'll ever receive. He hugged me so hard my ribs ached. I checked the box for 2, wrote our names, dropped it in the mail before I could change my mind. Hope is a strange tax. You keep paying it even when the returns are garbage. A week before the party, my cousin Jenna called to warn me. Your Aunt Carol's been talking again. According to the family grapevine, I was the ungrateful daughter who refused to let them see their grandson. I was cold, selfish, damaged. The truth was simpler. Every time I'd brought Julian to visit, my mother treated him like a suspicious package. Inspected him, found something wrong, moved on. Julian's hair is messy. Julian talks too much. Julian reminds me of you. The last visit, she'd looked at him arranging plastic trucks and said, he's got your father's chin, the wrong one. Meaning the boyfriend. The other mistake, I stopped visiting. Not to punish them, to protect my kid. But Aunt Carol's version played better at Bible study. Poor Alina, weeping, Arthur, stoic and heartbroken. The congregation shaking their heads at the heartless daughter. Julian heard fragments. One night, brushing his teeth, foam around his mouth. Mom, will Grandma like me this time? I wiped his chin. Grandma's complicated, sweetheart. But will she like the present? She'd be crazy not to. He nodded. He trusted me the way I used to trust my mother, completely, without auditing the books. I carried that weight all the way to the car the morning of the party. 3 weeks before the invitation, my father had called me. Unusual. Arthur Hayes communicated through my mother like nations use ambassadors. Direct calls happened roughly as often as solar eclipses. Clara. His voice was rough at the edges. How's the market out there? I was reviewing a vendor agreement. The market's fine, Dad, why? Just curious, your mother watches those flipping shows. He paused so long I checked if we disconnected. Dad, what's a house like ours worth these days? Ballpark. I gave him a number, he made a sound. Something between acknowledgement and pain. Everything okay with the house? Fine, your mother's calling me for dinner, you take care. He hung up. I sat there, phone warm against my ear, trying to decode it. My father didn't ask about real estate. I filed it under weird but harmless and went back to work. 2 days later, a file landed on my desk that made my hands go still. Every Tuesday, my firm pulled the weekly foreclosure docket from the county recorder. Routine. I skimmed it between coffee and my first meeting. Most were strangers' problems. That Tuesday, one address punched me in the sternum. 1847 Birchwood Lane. My parents' house. The house where Daniel got matching plates and I got grocery store cake. The house where my grandmother braided my hair every morning. The only person who ever made me feel like I belonged. I read the address 3 times. Pulled the full notice of trustee sale. There it was, printed on county letterhead. A sale date counting down. A default amount that made my stomach drop. A lender I recognized. They were losing the house. Not slowly, not theoretically, 7 weeks. And whoever showed up at the courthouse steps with the highest bid would own it. Every room, every memory, every square foot of the backyard where my grandmother planted roses that still bloomed every May. My father's call snapped into focus. He hadn't been curious. He'd been terrified. I closed my office door, pulled the lender file, started reading. I didn't call my parents. They hadn't called me, not to ask for help, not to warn me. They'd rather lose the house than call the afterthought. I read the file twice. The numbers don't lie the way people do. 14 months earlier, they'd taken a $187,000 home equity line of credit against the house. Paid off for years. Free and clear. Their only solid asset heading into retirement. They'd borrowed against every dollar of equity. On top of that, my father's cardiac surgery 9 months ago generated $43,000 in medical bills. Their combined monthly obligation was more than double their retirement income. 6 payments made, 4 missed. Notice of default filed in January. Sale date, June 20th. $187,000 in equity, torched. 30 years of mortgage payments gone. The math was ugly and final. Where had the money gone? Not to the house. Not to medical bills. The HELOC disbursement went out in a single lump sum 14 months ago to an account I didn't recognize. I pulled public UCC filings, cross-referenced the date, there it was. A restaurant LLC filed 13 months ago. Registered agent, Daniel R. Hayes, my brother's restaurant. The one he'd bragged about on Instagram for 5 months before the post stopped. The one my mother called *Daniel's new venture * at Thanksgiving. The one nobody mentioned since. They'd bet the house on Daniel. Literally, put up every cent of equity on the golden child's dream kitchen, and the dream had burned down, and they'd told me nothing. I dug deeper. *fork and field *. Farm to table. Downtown lease. A $4,200 logo. Grand opening post with champagne toast. * dreams don't wait. * my mother shared it 11 times. Fork and field lasted 19 weeks. Health department violations. Undercooked chicken. Unpaid rent. Daniel shut the doors quietly, deleted Instagram, never repaid a cent. The startup capital that came from my parents' house. I could picture it. Daniel at the kitchen table, earnest look perfected by age 12. My mother nodding because Daniel's dreams were family projects. My father signing the HELOC because saying no to Daniel wasn't in his vocabulary. They'd rather mortgage their retirement than admit their golden child was a bad investment. And when the bill came due, they'd rather lose everything than pick up the phone and call me. Because that would mean admitting I wasn't the afterthought. I was the one who could fix it, and that math didn't compute in a Leaner Hayes universe. I closed the file, opened it, closed it, then I stared at the lender's contact information for 10 minutes. Overresponsibility is a reflex. You see the fire, you grab the hose, even when the people inside never handed you a key. I didn't sleep. Part of me said, *walk away. They didn't ask you, they don't want you. They've spent 29 years making it clear you're the line item they'd cut first. But there was another part. The part that remembered my grandmother in the back bedroom, brushing my hair, telling me stories about the garden she planted at 19. The roses along the fence were hers. That house wasn't just my parents'. It was hers. And she'd been the only person who ever made me feel like I had a right to exist. And Julian who drew crooked houses of grandparents he barely knew. Julian who carried hope around like a lunchbox packed fresh every morning, even when it came back empty. I wasn't doing this for my mother, not for my father, and sure as hell not for Daniel. I was doing this because the house was worth saving, and because I'd never be able to explain to Julian 15 years from now that I had the power to keep his grandparents home, and I let it go because my feelings were hurt. But I wouldn't save them on their terms. If I did this, it would be on mine. I poured coffee, pulled up the lender's servicing number, drafted an email. By morning, I had a plan. The transaction was clean. Legal. When a borrower defaults on a HELOC and files for foreclosure, the note can be sold. Lenders do it daily. They'd rather take 70 cents on the dollar now than gamble on an auction. I'd handled these for clients dozens of times. I knew the forms, the disclosures, the timeline. I contacted servicing, identified myself as a certified risk compliance manager, inquired about purchasing the defaulted note at a negotiated payoff. After 2 rounds, we settled. I wired the funds from my savings. It wiped out most of what I'd put away over 6 years of promotions, bonuses, and skipped vacations. But it was my money, earned my way, spent with my eyes open. The assignment was recorded at the county recorder's office. As of 3 weeks before the party, I held the note. The default was mine to enforce or forgive. Their crisis sat in my briefcase. I want to be clear. I didn't do this to trap them. I did it because their house was going to be sold on courthouse steps in 7 weeks, and neither had the means, credit, or pride to ask the one person who could stop it. I planned to give it to them free and clear. The anniversary gift of a lifetime. The manila envelope sat on my desk for 3 days before I put it in the box. Inside, the recorded assignment transferring the lender's position to me, a satisfaction of note I'd prepared. Once signed and recorded, it would release the lien, cancel the debt, leave them with clean title. Underneath it, the original notice of trustee sale, June 20th, circled in red. 3 pieces of paper that told a story. Asterisk, your house was dying. Your daughter bought it back. Here's the release. Asterisk, I slid the envelope into the box, checked the satisfaction one more time, unsigned. I'd sign it at the party, in front of everyone, the final flourish. June 20th, 41 days away. I closed the lid and set the box on the shelf. That evening, I sat Julian down. Asterisk, we're bringing the most important present, sweetheart. Asterisk, he studied me with those serious brown eyes. Asterisk, more important than the earrings Daniel got grandma. Asterisk, way more. Asterisk, he retied the jute string, crooked again. He tucked his card under the bow. Asterisk, now it's perfect. Asterisk, I watched him smooth the brown paper, this tiny person who loved people who hadn't earned it yet, and I felt the full weight of what I was about to do. I almost didn't go. Mailed the documents, skipped the party. Let the paperwork do the talking without me and my complicated face and my 8-year-old and all the history we carried just by walking through the door. If you've ever talked yourself out of standing up to your own family, I get it. It took me 29 years. Stay with me. What happened when my son handed over that box changed everything. I loaded the box into the car and drove. Daniel called the week before. Asterisk, hey Clara Bear. Asterisk, still used the nickname from when I was 6. Asterisk, you going to mom and dad's thing. Asterisk, taking Julian. Asterisk, I'm actually working on something new, a consulting concept, more scalable. Asterisk, he said scalable like it was a magic word. Asterisk, that's great, Daniel. Asterisk, yeah, really coming together. Mom and dad are going to be stoked. Asterisk, he didn't ask about the house. Didn't mention the HELOC. Either he didn't know or he assumed someone else would fix it. Both tracked. 4 days before, my mother called to confirm attendance. Asterisk, you said too. You and Julian, still accurate. Asterisk, yes. Asterisk, Daniel's bringing a date. I'm rearranging the seating chart. Asterisk, of course. Asterisk, I'll sit wherever. Asterisk, you always do. Asterisk, her pauses were weapons. Asterisk, I'm surprised you're coming. You've made it very clear how you feel about family gatherings. Asterisk, I bit my cheek. The satisfaction of note sat in my briefcase 3 feet away. I was the only reason their house wasn't being sold to a stranger, and she was surprised I was coming. Asterisk, I'll be there. We're bringing something special. Asterisk, don't make it about you, Clara. This is your father's and my day. Asterisk, I wouldn't dream of it. Asterisk, she hung up. I sat in my car and stared through the windshield. Column A, reasons to give her the deed. Column B, reasons to shred it. Column A1, barely. Only because of a grandmother who died 6 years ago and an 8-year-old who still believed in matching plate parties. She had no idea she was inviting the holder of her own mortgage to dinner. The venue was a rented patio off Route 9. White tablecloths. Rented centerpieces. A string quartet. A silver banner, asterisk 30 years Arthur and Alina. Asterisk 60 guests. Aunts, uncles, church friends. Neighbors who believed Aunt Carol's gossip. The spread was extravagant. Shrimp trays, carving station, 3-tier cake with silver fondant roses. I did the math instinctively. $4,000 to $5,000. Money they didn't have, borrowed or charged from an account already hemorrhaging. They were celebrating 30 years inside a party they couldn't afford. In a house they were about to lose, in front of people they'd lied to. I parked around back. Julian smoothed his shirt. Asterisk ready. Asterisk, I held the box. Asterisk ready. Asterisk, he straightened the jute string. His card peeked out. I carried it. He held my hand. We walked in past the quartet. Past 30 years of curated mythology. The patio smelled like shrimp and perfume. Someone was already on their second glass of champagne. Aunt Carol found us in 90 seconds. Asterisk, Clara, you actually came. Asterisk, hi Carol. Asterisk, she looked at Julian like a health inspector. Asterisk, aren't you getting big? Eleanor's going to be surprised. Asterisk, asterisk, we brought a present. Asterisk, Julian said brightly. Asterisk, how thoughtful. Asterisk, she turned to the next table. Loud enough for me to hear. Asterisk, 30 years married, and the quiet one finally shows up. Asterisk, I moved Julian to my other side. Reflex. My parents were at the head table. Arthur shaking hands, thinner than I remembered. Eleanor arranging place cards with surgical precision. Neither looked up. I steered Julian toward Uncle Pete, Arthur's younger brother, retired electrician, the only relative who ever treated me like family. He hugged Julian, then leaned close. Asterisk, your grandma would have been proud of you, Clara. She always was. Asterisk, I blinked twice. Asterisk, thank you, Uncle Pete. Asterisk, asterisk, you okay being here? Asterisk, asterisk, ask me in 2 hours. Asterisk, Julian pointed at the cake. I let him look but kept him close. This room wasn't safe for him yet. Halfway through appetizers, I excused myself. Through the half-open kitchen door, I heard my mother's voice. Tight, controlled. Asterisk, Daniel says the investor is interested. 2 more weeks. Asterisk, Arthur's voice, lower. Asterisk, Daniel's been saying that since Christmas. Asterisk, asterisk, don't start, not tonight. Asterisk, asterisk, Eleanor, the letters are. Asterisk, asterisk, we are not discussing the house at our anniversary party. We'll figure it out. Daniel will come through. Asterisk, Daniel couldn't come through a revolving door. Silence. Then my mother, steel edge intact. Asterisk, at least he's trying. At least he didn't just disappear. Asterisk, she meant me. Arthur again, quieter. Asterisk, maybe we should have. Asterisk, asterisk, no, we are not asking her, we are not giving her the satisfaction. Asterisk, that word landed like a slap. Asterisk, satisfaction. Asterisk, as if saving their house would be a trophy for me, as if asking me was worse than losing everything. I stood there 30 seconds, long enough to confirm what I already knew. The house was their crisis. Daniel was their fantasy. I was their last resort, the one they'd rather drown than reach for. I went back to my seat. Julian ate a shrimp tail first. I kissed his head and set the box on the empty chair. After salad, Arthur stood to toast, tapped his glass. Room quieted. Asterisk, 30 years with this woman and I'd do it all again. Asterisk, polite applause. He talked about early years, lean times, the house on Birchwood Lane, family, legacy, Daniel. Asterisk, our son Daniel took a chance on his dream, put himself out there, already working on something new. That's the kind of man we raised. Eleanor and I couldn't be prouder. Asterisk, room clapped. Daniel waved, rehearsed. Arthur's eyes swept the room, landed on me, moved on. Asterisk, and Clara and little Julian are here too. Good to have you. Asterisk raised his glass. Asterisk to the daughter who never gave us a day of worry. Asterisk glasses clinked. I smiled because making a scene wasn't in my nature. Julian waved. Arthur didn't notice. Daniel was the paragraph, I was the footnote. Even at a party I attended to save their house, my father couldn't spare a full sentence for me. The daughter who never gave them worry had given them a HELOC, a failed restaurant, and a foreclosure notice. He didn't realize the irony. I excused myself again. Locked the restroom door. Ran cold water over my wrists. The mirror showed a woman in a cardigan, tired eyes, good posture, a craft box waiting at the table. I stared at her. I came to give them a home. I would not also give them my self-respect. The plan hadn't changed, but something had shifted. I'd walked in hoping they might meet me halfway, hoping my father might look up, hoping my mother might say hello to her grandson, hoping someone might acknowledge I existed as more than a line item. They hadn't. They wouldn't. Not because they were evil, because the story they'd told for 29 years was load-bearing. I was the afterthought. Daniel was the investment. Changing it meant admitting the math was wrong, and neither was strong enough for that audit. Right here is where I decided I was done begging to be loved. If you're at that point with someone in your family, this next part is for you. Comment asterisk boundaries asterisk if you've had to set one. I read them all. Then let's finish this together. I dried my hands, straightened my cardigan, picked up the box, time to give them the house. They cut the cake at 8:15. Phones came out. My mother held the knife like a scalpel. After plates were passed, I saw my opening. Asterisk Julian. Asterisk I knelt. Asterisk you remember what we talked about. Asterisk he nodded. Eyes huge. He'd been holding it together all night. Asterisk you're going to carry the box to Grandma and Grandpa and say what we practiced. Asterisk asterisk the happy anniversary thing exactly. Asterisk asterisk yes baby. Asterisk he slid off his chair. I handed him the box. He held it against his chest like it weighed more than physics allowed. I walked beside him. 60 pairs of eyes tracked us. Murmuring dropped. Uncle Pete set down his fork. My mother looked up. Arthur turned. Daniel glanced over. The room went quiet. I stopped 3 feet from the table and let Julian walk the last steps alone. He stopped directly in front of my mother, held out the box. Jute string catching the lights, his card tucked neatly under the knot. Asterisk happy anniversary, Grandma and Grandpa. Asterisk clear, practiced, proud. Asterisk we made it just for you. Asterisk the room melted. 60 people did that collective awe. Arthur blinked. Something soft moved behind his eyes. He reached for it. My mother got there first. She looked at Julian, at the box, at me. I saw the calculation. The 29-year-old story running its program. Asterisk Clara is the afterthought. Clara's gifts are obligations. Asterisk her jaw tightened. She didn't reach for it, didn't open it, didn't touch the string. The room held its breath. She looked at the box like it might bite her. Every person watching, every neighbor, every church friend. Silence lasted 4 seconds, felt like 40. She pushed it across the table, not gently, palm flat against brown paper, shoved it sideways. Jute string snagged on a fork. Julian's card slipped out, fluttered face down next to her chair. Julian's hands stayed out. Open, empty. My mother didn't look at the card, she looked at me and said it. Asterisk you were always the afterthought. I don't mean it cruelly, I mean it factually. Asterisk loud enough for the second row to hear. Loud enough for Uncle Pete to set down his glass. 60 people heard it, some gasped. Some didn't. If you'd been in this family long enough, you'd heard some version before. Just never this public, never this raw, never aimed at a woman standing in front of her 8-year-old son. Julian looked up at me. Lower lip trembled, locked. I didn't move, didn't speak. Watched my mother's face and saw everything I'd needed to see and been too hopeful to read. The resentment that predated me, the pregnancy that derailed her plans. 29 years of projecting her own regret onto the child who dared to exist. She wasn't angry at the gift. She was angry at me for bringing it. Acceptance meant gratitude. Gratitude meant I mattered, and I wasn't allowed to matter, not in her math. The room was silent, heavy. Carol looked at her plate. Daniel's date looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at his phone. Arthur's chair scraped. He stood. For when held breath, I thought he'd correct her, thought 30 years of following her might buckle. Thought he might, for once, choose me. He didn't. Asterisk I take it and leave. Asterisk flat, practiced, like he'd rehearsed it in the shower. A fork dropped. The pastor's wife covered her mouth. Julian pressed his face into my hip, and I laughed, not performance, not revenge. The sound a person makes when the thing they've feared their whole life finally happens, and it's so much smaller than they imagined. 29 years wondering if I was enough. The answer delivered on a rented patio with 60 witnesses. No, I was not enough. Never going to be. And for the first time, standing there with shrimp trays and my son's face pressed into my cardigan, I was perfectly fine with that. My mother's composure cracked. She hadn't expected laughter. Asterisk what's so funny? Asterisk she snapped. I stopped, took a breath, looked at Arthur, at Alina, at the box crooked on the table, string half off, card on the floor. Asterisk do you want to know what's in the box? Asterisk the room leaned forward. I picked it up, straightened the string, pulled out the manila envelope, held it up. Asterisk 3 weeks ago I found out this house, your house, the one on Birchwood Lane, is in foreclosure. Asterisk my mother's face went white. Arthur sat heavily. Asterisk you took out a $187,000 line of credit 14 months ago, funded Daniel's restaurant. Asterisk I looked at Daniel, his date looked at him, 60 people looked at him, he stared at the tablecloth. Asterisk restaurant failed, money's gone, missed 4 payments. Default filed in January. Auction scheduled June 20th. Asterisk I held up the envelope. Asterisk 41 days from tonight. Asterisk no one moved. Asterisk 3 weeks ago I bought the note from the lender, negotiated, paid it off with my savings. Every dollar I've earned in 6 years of working nights, weekends, skipping vacations while you told Carol I was the daughter who abandoned you. Asterisk my mother opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I set the envelope on the table. Asterisk this contains the recorded assignment of your note to me, and a satisfaction of note. Once I sign and record it, the house is yours, free and clear, no auction, no foreclosure, it was your anniversary gift. Asterisk I let it sit. Asterisk my 8-year-old carried it across this patio for you, and you shoved it off the table, and called me an afterthought. Asterisk I left the sentence in the air, didn't raise my voice, didn't cry, didn't look away, stood there with my son against my hip. Let 60 people do the math. Carol turned pale. The pastor's wife covered her face. Uncle Pete nodded slowly. My mother gripped the table. Asterisk Clara, you can't just. Asterisk I can. Asterisk I said quietly. Asterisk I hold the note, your house, your debt, my decision. Asterisk I slid the envelope back into the box, closed the lid. The satisfaction stayed unsigned. Folded it into my pocket. Bent down. Picked up Julian's card. Smudged. But the house was still there. Tucked it into my jacket, picked up my son. He wrapped his arms around my neck, didn't cry, just held on. The way kids hold on when adults fail, and the only safe thing in the room is the person carrying them. Asterisk Clara. Asterisk Arthur's voice broke. Asterisk wait. Asterisk I didn't. Asterisk please. Asterisk my mother stood. Chair hit the wall. Asterisk you can't just, that's our house. Asterisk I turned at the door. 60 faces. Stunned, relieved, crying. Daniel had his head in his hands. Asterisk it was your gift. Asterisk I said. Asterisk would have been signed tonight, you chose differently. Asterisk I walked out, parking lot dark, quiet, Julian's breath warm against my neck. Asterisk mom, asterisk he whispered. Asterisk yeah baby. Asterisk is grandma going to be okay? Asterisk buckled him in. Smoothed his hair. Asterisk grandma's going to have to figure some things out. Asterisk set the box on the passenger seat. Jute string creased. Half untied, wrecked from being pushed, started the engine. Drove home, neither looked back. Calls began at 10:47 p.m., my mother's voicemail, crying but structured, still drafting the narrative. Asterisk you humiliated us, in front of the church. You had no right, I didn't mean it that way. You always twist everything. Asterisk not a sorry, just a complaint about the audience. Arthur's at 6:15 a.m. Anger first. Then the crack. Asterisk hell of a stunt, Clara, we were wrong, okay we were wrong, please come back, we need to talk about the house. Asterisk 5 words. Asterisk talk about the house. Asterisk not Julian, not me, the asset, Daniel called twice. First time hung up. Second, asterisk fix this, Clara. Asterisk like I was tech support for a family he'd bankrupted. Over 5 days, 14 calls from my mother. 11 from Arthur. 3 from Daniel. 2 from my aunt I deleted. 3 texts from cousins. Asterisk heard what happened, you okay? Asterisk 2 neighbors reached out. Mrs. Delgado said she'd always thought I was the strong one, sorry no one said it sooner. The story they'd built for 29 years collapsed on a rented patio. Rubble everywhere. I didn't answer. Not yet, not as punishment, as preparation. They needed to sit in the quiet long enough to realize the house wasn't the problem, the silence was. I had something to offer, but this time with terms, boundaries, not ultimatums. Day 6 I called Arthur, just him. Asterisk I'm not making you homeless. Never the plan, not who I am. Asterisk quiet then, asterisk what do you want? Asterisk respect. For me, for Julian, in writing. Asterisk I'd drafted the documents. Clean, simple, I'd sign the satisfaction, release the lien, cancel the debt. In exchange they'd place the house in a revocable living trust. Life estate for them. Julian as sole remainder beneficiary. Daniel's name nowhere in it, no co-signing, no verbal promises. Just a recorded deed, notarized trust amendment, acknowledgement letter, not punishment. Alignment. If they wanted security, they'd acknowledge who provided it. Arthur agreed in 30 seconds. Math finally caught up. My mother took 2 days. When she called, her voice was smaller, no performance. Asterisk I was afraid of you, Clara. Afraid you'd turn out to be everything I wasn't. And you did, and I couldn't stand it. Asterisk 30 years terrified of being outshone by the daughter she swore she never wanted. Not an apology, not redemption. A woman at the edge of her own damage, finally describing what she saw. I didn't forgive her on the spot, but I heard her. Hearing her was enough. We met at a notary's office on Tuesday. Fluorescent lights, scratch of pens, her hand trembled signing. Arthur's steady, I signed last. Clerk stamped them, recorded that afternoon. By 4 lien released, default void. 1847 Birchwood Lane theirs again. Clean title. No strangers in my grandmother's garden. I drove past that evening. Roses still blooming. Heavy, pink, stubborn. Didn't stop, didn't need to. Julian's card, framed, hung in our hallway at eye level. Kids' drawings don't belong in trash, they belong where they can be seen. I stopped waiting for my mother to call me anything but an afterthought the day I realized my worth was never hers to hand back. You don't get to define someone else's value just because they stayed in the room while you kept changing the score. This isn't about revenge. Revenge is loud. Reactive. Leaves you exhausted. What happened on that patio was about boundaries. Choosing yourself before you break, holding up people who refuse to lift their own weight. Realizing love you have to audition for isn't love. It's a transaction, and you get to walk away from bad deals. If you've ever been the family scapegoat, the quiet one, the one who held everything together while others took credit for your stability, this is for you. You are not the mistake. You are the correction. Walking away with your dignity intact is the most powerful justice there is. Welcome to Little Bunny. We tell quiet stories about family, betrayal, and the steady strength it takes to choose yourself. If this resonated, leave your thoughts below. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And remember, you never need permission to stop begging for a seat at a table that was never set for you.